Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. This is Laurie Smith on Blog Talk Radio. It is 6 o'clock here in the morning, Friday morning, August the 26th. And I'm glad to be here. This is One Child Abuse Survivor to Another. We're on for 30 minutes. It's a live internet streaming radio broadcast from blogtalkradio.com. And the chat room is open, and I did pop the link into there, what we're talking about. Been looking at Robert Burney's web pages for quite a while, From Joy to You and Me. And Robert Burney, he's a codependence therapist. He's a grief counselor. He's an author. He's written a book called Codependence: The Dance of Wounded Souls, and he's a spiritual teacher. He's got a lot of good information there. If you go to his site index and you click on the site index from his website, www.joy2meu.com, you can see what he's got there. He's got a lot of information on codependency and a whole lot of info on relationship stuff and boundary work, inner child healing, and whatnot. So that's really what I'm really interested in looking at, was the inner child healing portion. And we're on the third page, actually the third piece of what he's written about the recovery process for the inner child, right? So thanks everybody for being here. I really appreciate it, for everybody tuning in, taking the time to do that, right? I know everybody's time is precious, and so I appreciate you spending this time with me. I'm not a counselor or therapist. I'm just a private citizen paying to do my shows here on Blog Talk Radio. And I just wanted to be one more voice speaking out against abuse, really. And really, when I first started doing Blog Talk Radio in November 2009, that was my goal, was just to be one more voice out here speaking out about abuse and talking about the issues surrounding child abuse, really to prevent child abuse. And then I decided to start doing this show, One Child Abuse Survivor to Another, because I know there's so many people out here who don't have anybody to talk to, who don't have any validation, and I thought, maybe they may be just sitting around not thinking, that, or just thinking that, man, there's no help, there's no hope, because I was doing that, right? And I thought, I just wanted to be a voice of encouragement for people to look for that help where you can find it. And also, what this does is this is my healing process, so it allows me to, instead of sitting around in the same old, because what I normally would do, throughout my life is sit around with the same old thought patterns and thought processes going on, which was that my parents had hurt me, and that a sibling of mine had hurt me, and that, the anger and the rage and whatnot would just sit there because I wasn't actually doing anything proactive about it. And so what this show does for me is it just allows me to look at material that's very helpful and talk it through. It's just like talk therapy, right? So I appreciate everybody who's been here for me and who's on this journey with me. I do appreciate it. Hopefully it's helping somebody else out there too. So we'll get right into this, looking at Robert Burney's web pages, but you have to listen at your own discretion, because to all of my shows, I put a discretionary warning on my shows, and I'm talking about abuse, and it's sensitive material, and I just tell it like it is. I don't sugarcoat it. I just say what I need to say, and so the show is really not for younger children, and if you're under the age of 18, I ask that you have permission to listen to my shows, because I would just believe children should be protected at all times, and you need to know what's good for you to listen to. And if you're under the age of 18, just have an adult listen to the show with you, and then they can help you make a decision whether or not age appropriately it's okay for you to listen to, because I don't know how young the people are who are listening to my shows. I just have no way of knowing that, right? So, and if you're just sensitive to the topics of abuse of any type or this type of material, or if you're a survivor just starting out on your healing journey, be very careful, because this type of material can be disturbing, and it can cause survivors to trigger, and so there's all kinds of trigger. Anything like this, looking at any type of information like this could do that. So you need to be careful and make sure that you're okay, safe enough to listen to this sort of thing, and safe enough to be a part of it, and so that you won't hurt yourself or somebody else, right? That's the whole issue. So thanks, everybody. Let's get right into this here. This is Robert Burney's The Recovery Process. We're almost all the way through the page here on the third part of the inner child healing process, which was the recovery process for inner child healing through the fear. This was the last portion of what he was talking about, and from the three parts of the inner child healing work. And we went through pretty well almost all the way to the page, writing about fear, an innocent child. That's what we were talking about yesterday. Fear is primal. That's where I want to pick up today. He says, Robert Burney says, fear is an innate, genetical, ingrained emotional impulse in human beings. It is a programmed response to survival instincts. Fear is an emotion that can serve us. It is a necessary tool for survival in a hostile environment. He says, I'm really angry when I hear some old timer in the AA meeting say fear is the absence of faith. And then he said, this is what he says. He says, that is bold. If we did not have fear, we would not need faith. And faith is what gives us the courage to walk through the fears, or walk through our fears. So, this is Robert Birdie's take on it, and I kind of agree with that. Faith is because I'm a person of faith, and I just believe that I have a lot of faith, and faith is what gives us the courage to walk through our fears. I kind of agree with that on some level. Yeah, I mean, it's just having the faith to do it, just to walk through it. And so that's basically where I'm at with my healing journey, because I know a lot of the stuff that I'm looking at from my past is very painful. And, some of it that I'm facing now with the CSA and incest and whatnot is incredibly painful to look at it. I didn't want to look at it for so many years. I just sort of basically split. I just sort of, I just tucked it away nice and neatly. I thought I had pushed it really far down, and it wasn't that far down there. It was actually right at the surface, but I just didn't see it because I was just covered over with a blanket sort of thing. And so, I mean, if you could kind of explain it that way, I guess, I was more concentrating on what my, the pain and misery that my mom and dad caused me, because this other stuff just didn't fit in the context of my childhood. You know what I mean? Like, I was used to being abused, I was used to being mistreated, and so I was used to trying to fight to survive in that home and actually just stay sane. And then when my brother, sexually abused me when I was 8 years old, I didn't know where to put that. I was like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, this doesn't go anywhere with what I'm dealing with from my parents, and it's a completely different type of abuse, and I still have to survive in this home. So I basically just tucked it away nice and neat there, somewhere just down below my subconscious, so I wouldn't have to think about it. And so now I'm going through this, walking through this stuff, and it is very painful. And I guess faith is what gives me the courage to do that. I would say it certainly is. So he says it's important to accept fear as part of our reality. It is important to clear up our relationship with our fear. He says the disease of codependence, our damaged ego, is programmed to react to life out of fear of what caused us pain in our childhood. So our ego is fighting for survival based on programming from early childhood, and that is what is dysfunctional. Our ego is fighting for survival based on programming from early childhood. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Some of the stuff he says is kind of over my head. It's like, okay. But some of it makes total sense. And I think that, what he's saying here is we reacted to life out of fear, of what caused us pain in our childhood. I mean, certainly anything that causes fear or causes pain. For instance, if you actually burn yourself on the stove, like on a stovetop, and, burns, I mean, they hurt, you know what I mean? So, you're going to remember that. You're going to remember that pain because you're going to be careful around the stove the next time because you don't want to burn yourself again, especially if it's a bad burn. We're not talking something simple. Let's say you really hurt yourself by burning yourself on the stove or in the oven or something, and then the next time you're going to remember that, you know what I mean? The sting of that's going to be around, you know what I mean, to remind you that, wow, you got to be careful around that because that hurts. And that it's like when you're, it's like thinking about our past a lot of times, especially I'll just talk about myself since it's really all I know. You're thinking about my past. Of course, it's painful. You know what I mean? And I think sometimes, like we know that hurt us. Something in our past has hurt us, and we know it's painful. It was painful at the time, and so it causes us pain to even think about it. So a lot of times people will just go into denial, and I think people will go into a state of, I'd rather not think about it. I'd rather not know about it because I know that, everybody's different and everybody has a different way of healing. Everybody's got a different healing process. And, for years and years, my relationship with my mother was really horrible and actually horrid. And then by the time I hit about 18, 19, I was about ready to move out of the home, which I stuck around because I was really trying to save my mother's life. I want everybody to know that. Like, I was the last sibling in the home, and all the siblings before me had been there to protect my mother, really to try to protect her, and there wasn't much they could do, but, they would try, even though she was as horrible as she was. We were trying to keep her alive, and the issue is my brothers, and mainly my brothers had told me, to sort of take over the role. And so, I just went along with it. So I stuck around, and I didn't run away, and I didn't leave at the age of, which I really should have, got out of there, especially when I had an intervention done when I was about 13 and a half. But it was always this issue of, no, I got to be there for my mother. She wasn't there for me. But, that's what happens in families, right? And so I had this horrible relationship with her until it was about ready to move out. And you know, I was getting older and I just wanted to get out of Dodge, right? And she was like, you know, I'll die if you leave, you know, like she was serious. I mean, and she probably would have. And the sad thing is you know, I was so happy to have anything from her at all because I hadn't been receiving any kind of care or any good stuff from her at all. She actually started to sort of treat me a little better when I hit about somewhere between right after around 18, 19 years old. You know, it was when she changed her attitude towards me a bit because she knew that I could just leave. You know what I mean? I was old enough and I could just move out, and you know what I mean? I had jobs and it's not that I was doing that great. I was doing drugs and everything, but she just wanted me around because she wanted somebody to protect her from my dad, which I did. You know what I mean? I kept the peace and I kept him away from her. And which is really, I mean, I was happy to do it, to be honest with you. I really, you know, it's not like I feel completely bad about that, you know what I mean? Like I would do that. You know, people would say, how could you do that for your mother after she did what she did to you? Because I'm a better person. You know what I mean? Like I'm the better person in the whole thing because it's not that I wanted to do that or I wanted to give up part of my life for that, but I was also hoping that we could repair our damaged and really our non-existent relationship. So there was many reasons for it. And I mean, we actually got along on some level until she died. But about the year before she died, it all started to go downhill again, and she started to say and do things that just showed me that she hadn't changed one bit, and it was all a lie. And so then I felt very much used and abused again. I was like, okay, so now I've just spent my 20s with you and given up my frickin' 20s. Just to have you throw it in my face, used and abused again. I was so irate, I couldn't even think straight, you know, because I had been already so incredibly manipulated by this woman, abused and mistreated and manipulated, you know, and then had keep me around and with a little bit of a carrot right in front of me saying, "Oh, I'll just keep you here with this little carrot dangling," which is what she did. And giving me some false sense of hope that the reality of the nightmare of my childhood, that she actually did love me and that she really did care about me. And then she just threw that in my face, you know what I mean? Like she stomped on my heart again at the age of 30, and I was like, you want to talk about somebody out of control, you know? Like I was so out of control. I was like, I was like, oh my God, like this is the most heinous thing that a person could do to another person. It really is, you know what I mean? And I'm like, oh my God, that's my mother, you know? Like here, I mean, she had me faked out thinking that she was a decent person after all, you know what I mean? And, you know, I'm telling you, some people are just so sick, you just hope that they face judgment. I really do. I'm like, please let her face judgment. I really, you know, it's sad. I don't want my family to go to hell, but, you know, I want justice. You know, will I ever see it? Probably not. But this is the stuff. It's like based on it's this stuff that causes pain, you know, in our childhood. Our ego's fighting for survival based on this programming, right? And that's what's dysfunctional. It's just really bizarre, you know what I mean? Because for the longest time, I put my abuse away. Well, that's basically where I was going with that, with what I was saying, is that for the period of time between about 19, 20 years old, after my mom really started to actually treat me a lot better than she ever had before. And obviously, because I could have moved out, you know what I mean, without any, you know, repercussions. She wouldn't have cared if I moved out anyway, right? It's just that she knew that she had no way for, you know, to keep control of me because of the loss as I was an adult, you know. And so, you know, I could do whatever I wanted to. So she was like, oh, I better change my tune. I want her to stick around here. So, you know, she did start to change her tune a little bit, and, you know, I put all that abuse behind me. You know, until she threw it in my face again, I was willing to walk away from that. So I just tucked that all nice and neatly down. I mean, I knew what had happened. I knew what she did to me, and I knew what my dad had done to me, and I knew what my brother had done to me. But I just tucked it all away, you know, nice and neatly there because, you know, I just thought I was just thinking, no, I can do this. I can move forward. I can move on, you know. And it wasn't so much a forgive and forget. It was more of a, well, let's just see if we can make things better. You know what I mean? And then when she threw that on my face, it was all there. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh, my God. So I had to leave the country. I was like, I'm getting out of the country, man. I'm moving to Canada. You know what I mean? Because I'm dual citizen, and I thought, oh, screw this. I'm going to get as far away from you and Dad and this whole mess where I grew up as I possibly can. You know what I mean? So I basically ran away at the age of 30, right? And, which is ridiculous. And the issue is that I'm really glad that I did, because what it did was it allowed me, it allowed me to really get in touch with what happened. I didn't want to walk through that pain. I didn't want to walk through that misery, but I knew I was going to have to do it because I was always, like I said, miserable and contemplating suicide and very hurt by what was happening. And the pain, it's not like survivors of abuse are ever going to be able to get what they really need from these people that hurt them. I don't know. I bet you there are people out there who have had the person who's abused them actually try to make up for it and reconcile and, even possibly make up for it, in some way, right? That sort of seems okay for the person who was abused, you know what I mean? That it says, okay, well, this person really tried and they did try, and you know what I mean? And so in their heart they can actually feel a little bit better about it, you know what I mean? But so many of us will not get that. So many of us will walk away from this abuse and we'll know, the last memories that I have of my mother really are what our main relationship was when I was a child, and that was just this evil hatred stuff that she threw at me when I was 30, again, 29 years old, 28 years old. So, I'm never going to get what I needed from her. Never. Not even an apology, not even, I'm sorry, daughter, that I did this to you. I'm sorry that I hurt you over and over again. I'm sorry, Nothing, because it wouldn't take it back anyway. But what it would do is it would let me see her in a different light. But I never got that, so now, I every night I go to bed, I remember the fact that my mother really was incapable of really loving me and incapable of loving anybody. She couldn't even love herself. And I go to bed, I wake up in the morning with the knowledge that my brother killed himself, but my brother who sexually used me and raped me and sodomized me, he killed himself. And would I be able to ever get, exonerated there? And, no. It's like my mother allowed it to happen. Right? So it's like, my God, you know what I mean? Like, this is the stuff that I go to bed with and I wake up with. And, people would say, well, how come you can't just move past it? It's like, could you move past that? Can you just walk away from something like that? Sometimes people think they can. See, I thought I did. And that's why I know, I understand what's going on. You know what I mean? I understand the reality of this stuff. We can pretend we walking away from it all we want. I did for many, many years. I stuffed it down there, and I thought I didn't think everything was great. I just thought I had moved on. And I thought, hey, I'm a tough person. I can roll with the cookies. I can roll with the punches, whatever. No problem. So I was abused as a child and whatever, It's like, whatever, right? I was able to move forward in my life, And the issue is that it was all still there. It was all still there. It was manifesting in many areas of my life, and that's the issue with that. It doesn't go away until we deal with it. You know what I mean? And so that's where, I'm at. And of course, this whole issue of dealing with fear. Nobody wants to have to deal with this pain. Nobody, no survivor, I'm sure, wants to have to feel this stuff and deal with it. It's a lot easier to be in denial. It's a lot easier to just walk away from it and say, okay, that's it. I don't want to deal with it. It's too painful, so I'm just going to let it go. It's a lot easier to do that. But I don't know, if it's ever possible to really get over it unless you go through the fire. And so, but see, I don't know. I'm not a counselor. I'm not a therapist. I'm not. I think it's individual. It's up to the individual. Some people are probably perfectly okay doing that, but I obviously wasn't. And it's incredibly hard on people. It really is. Like he says, it is important to learn new tools to counteract the powerful programming of the disease, the condition of codependency. So it's important to change our relationship with our own fear, changing our perspective of our fear. So he says denying our fear is dysfunctional. Relating to our fear as if it only comes from one place is only about one thing is dishonest. So there are multiple levels to our fears, and a few of those levels may be right on. Most of them are dysfunctional. So there are some levels that are about false evidence appearing real, like to use a 12-step acronym, based on assumptions, mind reading, fortune telling, fantasies, nightmares that we project onto others in life. Some of the levels are reactions to our childhood wounds. If I'm alone, I will die. This thinking this sort of thing, right? If I take the risk of loving someone and they don't love me back, I will die, sort of thing. He just, he's taking it to the extreme. If I don't have security, I will die, etc. Not looking at our fears keeps us in the dark and gives them power. So it's only by bringing them out of the darkness into the light that we can take the power away from them. And I like that, what he says there. Not looking at our fears keeps us in the dark and gives them power. It is only by bringing them out of the darkness into the light that we can take that power away from them. I really like what he says there. And I agree with it completely. And it kind of seems like, that's, darkness to light, the organization, and the, darkness to light, bringing things to the light, right? That then we can face it, right? We can see what it is. And I mean, just dealing with the CSA and incest stuff, for so long I didn't want to see it, I didn't want to see it to work through it. I knew I was going to have to do it, and I knew what had happened, but I didn't want to see it again because it was too painful. I didn't want to remember. I didn't want to feel those feelings, and I certainly didn't want to think about what happened to me as an 8-year-old, And that kept me because I didn't want to do that. What it did was it kept a lot of, it sort of kept me feeling that it was going to be too much, because it was too scary. There was too much fear surrounding it, too much fear to look in. It's like looking into a box of that is a bad box to look into, Let's say you have there's a box sitting on the ground, it's an evil box that's full of everything that's evil, and you open the lid, you think, man, I don't know if I should look in there or not. It's like maybe I don't want to see that. You know what I mean? It's like that's kind of how I try to equate what I'm going through, because that was very evil, and heinous. And I always thought no, I'd rather not see it. And I think that was just my own protecting myself. At the time, I needed to be able to split and walk away from it as a child, because I still had to go to school and I still had to face my abusive mother. I mean, especially after I told my mother that my brother was actually doing what he was doing to me, she said to wrap myself up like a mummy when I went to bed. She goes, just wrap yourself up like a mummy, when you go to bed. And I'm like, oh, great. Thanks for the help there, Mom, But she was my main abuser, and I knew I wasn't going to get very much farther past that, so I didn't push it with her. And I thought, she's not going to help me. There's no way. And, she was my main abuser, right? So after that, she really started to really come down on me. Like she was losing her mind anyway. She was so ill, and so mentally ill, so physically ill. And I mean, I had to contend with trying to stay alive, in the home. So really, I had to push that other stuff under the carpet. So that's why I pushed the CSA incest under the carpet, because my mother was beating on me and almost breaking my nose and beating on me with belts, and I mean literally just kicking my ass on a regular basis. And this went on for the main part of about 2 years after maybe 3 years actually, after my mother had sexually abused me, and she would call me these names, whore and a slut, and I couldn't figure out what she was calling me. I didn't understand what those even meant when I was 8-9 years old. I really didn't get the concept of why she would call me those things, but those were kind of common names in our home anyway. But then when I got older, I started to realize, well, she was blaming me for that, you know what I mean? And we never had a conversation about it after, because I didn't talk to my mother. She was highly abusive. I didn't talk to her really until after I got until I hit about, I don't know, 20. I didn't have any real decent conversations with her because she was just highly abusive. It's just better to stay away from her. You know what I mean? But I thought it was going to be too scary for me to look in on that CSA incest stuff. And so in doing that, I kept, it seemed like it was going to be too much. It was going to be too dark. It was going to be too hard. And as soon as I got in touch with it, actually, this has been only about 2 months now that I actually got in touch with it. And I'm very thankful, because actually what it did is it put all of those demons out of the closet. And now, because I have taken a look at what happened to me and accepted it and acknowledged what happened to me, I can finally get some help with it. Whereas before it was sitting there so far, I thought it was so far down that first of all it was going to be a real problem to get it out. And then I thought, if I do, will I be able to handle it? And so what this has proved to me, just for myself, I don't know about anybody else, is that, by saying, okay, no, I'm going to look at it. I've been through everything else. I can look at it. You know what I mean? Why can't I look at this one thing? It's just that at the time, as a child, I had to bury it because it was just too much, and it didn't have anywhere to fit in my life. So that's where I get what I get from other material that I read and people that I know. So, now it's like, okay, no, now it's time to get it out. It's time to bring that dark stuff out into the light, because that gives me the control, that gives me the power. It takes the power away from that fear. For so long I didn't see that, and well, who would? I mean, my God, nobody wants to think about themselves being raped and sexually used at the age of 8. But I remember, that's the issue. So, and I think that all of us, anybody who has been abused, does remember these things, and sometimes, for whatever reason, can't recover the memories, or the memories maybe they don't want to, right? And that's their own choice. And that's totally, it has to be accepted as their own choice, because that's the person's own prerogative, you know what I mean? For me, I want to be able to walk free of this. And free for myself, so that I can finally put this stuff where it needs to go in the past, right? Instead of continually haunting me day to day to day. I want to be able to put it where it goes, So in order for me to do that, I got to be able to see it, feel it, deal with it, do what I need to do with it, and then be able to let it go. And at some point, it's hard. It's very, very hard. I know there's people out here who are so suffering, and it's just so horrible. Because I think, we all maybe experience different things, but we all know what that pain is, We all know what that pain is in your heart, and then the pain, the pain in your life, from having to have survived this stuff, But then there's these other little kids that don't make it, these children who die because of the abuse they suffer. And that's what I always say. I used to wish that my mother would kill me, you know what I mean? Especially my mom. I was like, just go ahead and kill me, take me out, because she was really highly, she could have killed me. And I was like, go ahead, you know what I mean? You make my day. I mean, basically that's what's my attitude when I was a little kid, because I was like, I just want out, And that's, people say, oh, every child's like that. It's like, no, not on the same level. Not when they're serious. You know what I mean? That's not like a kid throwing a fit because they didn't get their favorite toy. You know what I mean? That's just being battered and being so mistreated and so unloved and unwanted, rejected, that you just want out. That's basically suicidal. And, that's the same thing. And the issues are, I stuck around. I hung around, and I still managed to do it until the age of 41, when I was just, at the last time, I said, that's it. I will no longer ever even consider it, because this is my way of getting back at my parents. It's my way of getting back at my abuser brother. He killed himself. And, it's my way of getting back at my parents, because it's a slap in the face to my whole family that I'm actually doing this. It is. It's like I'm in their face saying, you know what? I don't care if you all hurt me. I don't care what you did to me. I'm going to move on. I'm going to have a good life, and you can all go straight to hell, whatever you're going to do. And you know what? I'm a Christian, so it's a very wrong thing for me to say. And also, I try to be a good person. But see, this is my show to say what I need to say, right? This is my healing journey. This is why I need to be able to feel these things. My family hurt me incredibly badly, and there was no support. It's not like I had a sibling who was there to support me. My older sister was just as abusive as the rest of them, because she was watching my mother beat on me, so she would beat on me, punch me in the legs. Any chance that she got, she would kick me around. Like she made me sleep in the corner, in this little corner in the bedroom, really surrounded by Kleenex boxes on this little mattress. That was my bed. And my sister was just as abusive as the rest of them. She just grew up in the same home I did. So see, I need to be able to feel what I need to feel from this. And I think that I'm perfectly justified. I think it's justified. I really do. I think when a family hurts a child that much, they should come around and they should say, you know what, we're sorry. You know what I mean? But no, did I ever get an apology? No. Will I ever get one? No, I doubt it. They think it's fine to bat a kid in the head. They think it's fine to hurt a child. They think it's fine to rape a child. If you asked any one of my family members, they'd be like, well, I think it's okay. Because my dad raped my mother, I think he raped my brothers. My sister, she's just so screwed up. So I'm never going to be able to get anything I needed from this family unit. That's why I cut them off. And so now I'm dealing with how I feel about them for real. You know what I mean? So, well, thanks everybody for being here. We have about a minute left. So, yeah, I hope you will check the rest of this out. We're going to finish this up on Monday, and then, you can check it out from www.joy2meu.com. Robert Birdie's webpage is there. And I'll be back on tonight as well as Monday morning. We'll just continue on with this one child abuse survivor to another. I want to look at another section, codependency and counterdependency, and that we'll just move on to that. But thanks everybody for being here. If you can't cope, you make sure you get help. You do not allow yourself to go down. Reach out, make a phone call, phone someone anonymously, like phone one of those crisis lines or whatever. But you make sure, that you get some help. You certainly deserve so much better. But we have to treat ourselves right, and we have to do it. Nobody else is going to do it for us. So that's my big message. Stick around and get some help and allow yourself to heal. Allow yourself to get some help. Have a great weekend, everybody. Take good care of yourselves. If you need something, I'll be around. So you can contact me here or on Facebook or wherever. So take good care of yourselves, okay? Bye-bye.